Some moments linger, haunting you endlessly. They linger like silent shadows, ever present. 2 years have passed. 2 years ago, everything changed. A beach trip with my son Max was meant to be simple. Eric never showed up and never worked. Always first, always alone, but that day felt different. We never spread out the towels, not then, not now. The sun was too warm. I lay down, finally free from the world's noise. And then, I asked Max for help, to massage oil into my back. I acted without hesitation.
He's my child.
Why would I, my boy? It meant nothing.
His hands were there for me.
But then, I truly felt it. I let him go deeper, surrendering to the moment. Why didn't I intervene? You believe you understand who you are. You believe you understand your family. Yet, there's always that one moment that can change everything for me. That day on the beach changed everything. Eric and I had been married for over 15 years, and I've never been the same since. People would say we were the ideal couple, happy home, wonderful kids, and a stable life. You only notice the cracks when you're trapped within the walls. Only those who live it truly sense the emptiness. For years, Eric's job consumed him. He sacrificed nights, weekends, and holidays for work. I convinced myself he did it for us. The overtime, the dedication, it was all for the life he dreamed of for our family. Eventually, that story begins to unravel. What is the value of a home? I became invisible to him when no one was ever there. He walked in, eyes averted, as if I were invisible. He ceased to care about my feelings or desires. We exchanged brief words, focused on bills, groceries, and the kids. He loved Max and his little sister Isa, yet his presence felt like a shadow, always there, but never truly seen. But not at all. I sat at the table, questioning if Hestel even noticed me that morning. I stood in the kitchen, watching Eric rush out the door, grabbing something in haste. His briefcase brushed against Isa's head, and he looked at me for just a moment. "I'm sorry, Lena. I'm unable to make it today. Work has come up unexpectedly." I stayed silent. I nodded, throat tight as always.
I reassured myself it was fine, Max.
There's so much more to say. Max was just 16 then. He was tall and lanky, brown eyes mirroring his father's, yet his face held a gentle softness. He stayed silent, even when I mentioned it would only be us. He had grown accustomed to it. His dad is leaving, too. He shrugged, took the bags, and walked to the car with me. I saw him in the passenger seat, earbuds in, staring out the window like a teenager lost in thought. His growth filled me with joy, yet a fear lingered. Would I blink and lose him forever? The journey to the beach seemed never-ending. My thoughts drifted, inevitably to Eric. I remember everything we shared. Movie nights, long walks, spontaneous trips, pure joy in every moment. I remember his touch, the spark in his eyes when he saw me.
It had been years since I felt that.
I felt nothing. I was exhausted from existing. We arrived quietly, and Max helped me carry the bags to a secluded spot. I spread the towels as he unfolded the umbrella. I can't explain why I suddenly needed to reach out to him. Perhaps it was simply because he was alone. I just needed someone to listen. Getting out feels great, right? I kept pushing forward. He nodded, a forced cheerfulness in his gesture as he swept his hair back. "Sure, Mom, it's great." I sank onto the towel, the sun's warmth enveloping me. Stood still for too long. I surrendered completely. I just wanted to feel the burden of the past few years fade away, even if only for an hour. Then the oil came to mind. I turned to Max, sitting up suddenly.
"Please help me apply this on my back,"
I inquired. I couldn't get it myself. He glanced at me, a fleeting moment, before grabbing the bottle. I lay back down, face to the towel, and waited. The first touch was soft, tentative, his hands trembling with uncertainty. He never intended to cause me pain. I smiled, remembering when he was small, and held my hand to cross the street. His hands were so small then. "Press a bit harder," he urged. My voice is silenced. "It's all right." He listened, and his grip tightened. Ash's hands glided the oil over my shoulders, trailing down my back. I shut my eyes and concentrated. In the warmth, his touch's rhythm captivated me, and for a moment, I surrendered to the pleasure. It had been ages since anyone had touched me, and that realization struck deeper than I cared to acknowledge. His hands glided down the curve of my back, slow and deliberate. My breath hitched, words poised on my lips. Yet, silence remained. Thoughts surged, yet silence remained. I convinced myself it was okay, that he was only being helpful.
I was lost in my thoughts.
But his hands lingered just above, close to the edge of my towel. His hesitation was palpable. I felt it deeply. Instead of stopping him, I said, "It's okay. You can touch there as well." The words lingered, toxic and irreversible, and as soon as they escaped my lips, I realized the weight of my mistake. Max remained silent, yet he didn't hold back.
I shut my eyes tight and felt.
His hands were too low, crossing a line. My heart raced, threatening to echo in my ears. I wanted to sit up and tell him to stop, but I couldn't. I failed. I still allow it to unfold. I'm lost. Perhaps it was the solitude. I might have been too desperate to feel wanted, even if it was wrong. Or perhaps that day on the beach, I simply stopped caring about everything. I shattered inside, and everything changed forever. Thank you for staying with me on this journey. I understand this may be hard to hear. Thank you for listening, and please share if you know someone who can relate. Hit that like button and subscribe now. Your support inspires me to keep sharing these stories. I have company in this vast world. Time to dive back in after that beach day. A change occurred. I had to face it. My emotions ran deep. The way Max looked at me left a lasting impression. It became more than a fleeting glance. It was a profound connection. It never stopped. Each time our eyes met, I sensed a change within him. A truth I wished to ignore but couldn't escape. I attempted to hide it when we returned home that night. I tried my best to seem normal. "Dinner is ready," I asked Max. School life. Late into the night, I folded laundry. My hands trembled as I replayed it over and over. All that transpired. His hands lead the way. He amplified the tension within me. I loathed myself for it. He made me feel this. My way. Ounce and Eric were oblivious to the late arrival, as always. His tie hung loosely. His face showed exhaustion. He kissed my cheek, a mere shadow of what it once was. "Is it going to be a long day?" He grunted and nodded, yearning for a connection.
So soon.
It always felt this way halfway to the living room. His presence was merely an afterthought, and I was unseen. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, while Eric slept softly beside me. The house was silent, yet my heart raced. My mind wasn't there. I held on. Max's hands and gaze linger in my thoughts. I understood. It was wrong. I knew I had to end it. Whatever it was, it's gone now.
No more.
Yet, another part of me existed. A shadow looms. A deep loneliness. Desperate to keep it close. That yearned. Listen closely. To feel truly seen is to be touched deeply. Time slipped away. Max remained silent. His silence screamed. More than words. He didn't exactly avoid me. Rather, he felt near. He'd watch me cook, his gaze lingering. When I cleaned, alone on the couch, the night swallowed me whole. I allowed it to unfold. I let him go. I couldn't hold back. The following weekend, it happened again. The house suffocated. Eric was gone, working late. Me and the ship are leaving me and Max behind.
Exactly.
I asked him if he wanted to return to the beach. Only us. I can't explain my actions. I hoped the outdoors would bring clarity. I wanted to challenge myself to find out if I could. Everything could be cast aside. The drive felt eerily silent. Max left his earbuds behind. He sat silently, gazing out the window. His knee jittered with unease. I have something to share. Anything to shatter the stillness. Yet each time I spoke, the words choked me. Upon arriving at the beach, it felt nearly vacant. The water was a stunning blue. The wind kissed my face. It laid the towels out once more, just as it had done before. Max was there to help me with everything. I never asked him to reboil. This time, I couldn't bear it. I just lay there, eyes shut tight, faking a smile, hiding the pain. Even with my eyes closed, his gaze pierced through me. I felt his gaze on me. The true breaking point arrived later. We made our choice that afternoon. Rinse off at the beach showers before going home. It was meant to be a swift rinse, just to wash away the sand. Yet everything changed. I still can't explain what happened when we reached the showers. Max entered the shadows, letting the water flow. I stood off, watching him from behind. The side observed him briefly, before I took the plunge. I can't explain what happened to me. I stripped away my layers and stood next to him. The water chills my skin. Max's gaze met mine.
Shocked.
I can't tell if it was shock, confusion, or something deeper. Yet, silence spoke volumes. I looked at him. She gazed at him intently and spoke. Take off your shorts too.
Rinse now. Correctly.
I regret saying it. I wanted to prove something. I believed I could take charge. I wish I could end this. Perhaps I was pushing his limits, challenging my limits. He paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. It happened. He slid off his shoes. Just us, in that moment, together and alone. Water cascades over us, clearing it all out. Only our shared emotions. I faced away and whispered my question. I need relief for my back. His hands moved with care once more, once again. It was unmistakable. I could feel the tension within him. Tex's touch on my waist ignited something deep within me. He stood still. The air thickened, the sound of water engulfing everything. I could have left it all behind. I should have stopped it. Instead, I leaned in closer to him. I took his hands and placed them on my chest. And when I finally did, he stayed and everything changed. Words fail me. No explanation needed. A moment consumed by longing, isolation, and a deeper void. I prefer to leave it unnamed.
It was hard and it was fast. It was a cry for help.
Fiercely flawed in every aspect. I just couldn't. Enough. I hesitated, and when it ended, we just stood in silence. The rain keeps falling on us, erasing the signs, but the truth remains. He embraced me. He held me like no one else had in years, and I surrendered to it. Afterward, silence enveloped us as we dried. All packed up. She turned and walked back to the car. I caught Max's insolence from the corner of my eye. His face turned red. His movements were rigid. I realized I had destroyed everything. All of it. I knew we'd gone too far. That can never be undone. For the first time in years, the ride home started in silence. The car was suffocating, overwhelming, as if the very air was suffocating us. I clutched the steering wheel with all my strength, focusing on the road ahead. My thoughts were a whirlwind. I could still feel him, Max. He bears the weight of his body. All that we've accomplished. I stole glances at him in the passenger seat. He sat rigidly, eyes fixed on the window. His face turned red. His jaw clenched. Suddenly he spoke. His voice was low, almost uncertain. I couldn't look at him, but I heard him. What? What just happened? My heart skipped a beat. I considered pretending. I missed him when he brushed it off. Shift in focus. It was time to stop pretending. Not after what we've done. I inhaled deeply and responded. I'm lost. It was the reality. Or maybe just a glimpse of it. I was lost, unsure of what had transpired. All I knew was that everything had shifted. Silence lingered until we arrived. Pathway to home. I turned off the car, but something lingered. We stood still. At last, Max gazed at me, truly saw me. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. It was clarity. Guilt and shame linger. How long have you felt this longing? His words sent chills through me. I was asking myself that same question. I gazed at him then. It felt as if a dam shattered within me. I'm lost. I softly said maybe. We fell silent, longer than I'd like to admit. Sitting in the dark, I believed that would be enough. Let's go inside. Erase it from your mind and act like it never occurred. Max had different plans. Just before I opened the door, he leaned in and kissed me. It began gently. He's in, fearing I'd drift away. I chose not to. I allowed it. I kissed him back. I lost control. Maybe it was the loneliness. Years of neglect, the weight of Max's gaze. Like never before. However, it happened right outside our home. Max drew me in. His hands glided over me, as if they were meant to be there. In that moment, I truly lived. I felt desired. For the first time in years, I felt truly seen. Nothing else mattered. I lost track of time.
Just like that.
Entwined in one another. Eventually, we went inside. The walk to the door is a blur. The warmth of his hand in mine. The silence hums with tension.
Power.
Silence lingered between us. It wasn't necessary. We were once part of it all. It surged, as if we had been stifling it for ages. The dam burst. The following days became a blur. Max was always by my side, constantly seeking ways to touch me, or see me when I was invisible to everyone else. I'd urge myself to step back and embrace this fully. Yet, each time I glanced, I recognized his loneliness. We were like mirrors, reflecting each other, mirroring one another, returned to the same order. A lingering void. I had to say yes. At night, lying in bed next to Eric felt wrong. Gazing at the Solink, lost in thought. His breath echoed. I'd think about Max in the next room, reflecting on everything. His hands mirrored how he shaped me. Reignite your spirit. Then I'd close my eyes, feeling warmth curl up in my chest. Slithering silently. I always knew it would end. I felt the weight of my mistake. I was powerless to resist. Every day, our tension deepened, until it burst forth. Late one evening, Eric was back at work. ISA slept peacefully. Max and I stood in the kitchen. Washing dishes consumed my thoughts. I tried to distract myself, but then I felt him. Right there. I looked back. He looked at me just like he did on the beach, Max. I whispered gently, warning him, yet he pressed on. He moved in, his breath warm against my neck. Mom, he whispered. My mind won't rest. Overview. I froze.
You.
My heart raced, threatening to explode. I wanted to tell him to stop, to go back to his room, to leave me alone. I just didn't. Rather, I gazed at him and spoke. What I never needed. I'm trapped. Always. And that's it. What's going on? That was it. Everything collapsed. Part Max kissed me, his lips pressing against mine with urgency. This moment, it's a cry for help. I kissed him back. I felt no remorse for my choice. I felt nothing for Eric, ISA, or the life we created together. Everything to me. Max Washam. My child. The one who showed me I mattered. Ever since that day on the beach. Normal is still out of reach. Indeed. I doubt they ever will. Just Max and me. We've crossed an irreversible line, regardless of the struggle. I struggle to believe anything different. A fleeting moment has spiraled into chaos beyond my grasp. Their guilt weighs heavily, always present. Yet I press on. That's what terrifies me the most. Every day, I gaze at my husband Eric and my daughter AA. I can't believe they don't. They fail to see the cracks spreading through our family. Perhaps they're too absorbed in their own worlds to notice me fading away. Perhaps I've simply learned to conceal myself more effectively. Yet, I feel it won't endure. Always. Secrets linger. A path to reveal oneself. When they finally do, the aftermath will devastate. I can't escape it all. I keep telling myself this is wrong. Max deserves better. I deserve better. Yet, each time his hands meet my skin, every time he gazes at me like that, I feel utterly alone. I fade away. He ignites my spirit.
Somehow.
I haven't felt anything in years. Perhaps forever. That is the truth. I must endure. I'm lost on how to resolve this. I'm not sure I can make it right. That's why I must share our journey together. Perhaps there's someone out there. There is an answer. I possess something. I haven't considered it. Perhaps you can guide me to a way out. This chaos I've created, before it's too late. Please share any advice you have. If you face this or know someone who has, who wants to share their voice,
Just you.
let this serve as a warning. Loneliness can drive you to dark places. You never imagined it would end this way. Find your way before it's too late. Don't wait for your world to crumble before you see the truth. Once you cross that line, everything changes. We can't turn back now. Thank you for hearing me out. Express your feelings just like this video. If it helped you,
Subscribe now.
or else. I need to know I'm not alone. Isolated. Often, the deepest betrayals cut the hardest. They aren't the ones we hurt. We hurt ourselves more than anyone else.